The Traveller's League Book 1 The Timepiece, written by Nick Goss. The Deep. Hoops felt invincible. He learned the secrets of other dimensions, logged his discoveries, recovered his shadow, and even saved Miss Grankle's life. He told himself he was ready for anything and looked forward to romping through the next 9 worlds. When he awoke the next morning, his mum made him breakfast again and left for work. Again, Hoops found himself alone in his apartment. She had grounded him fair and square, and he had to stay inside and wait another 5 days before his mum would let him enjoy the beginning of summer. It wasn't much of a punishment though. It was more like his mum gave him permission to lock himself in his room and travel to strange new worlds. Each world he explored seemed to be more interesting than the one before, and he was ready to see whatever waited for him in the next. Grabbing the timepiece and setting it to 4 o'clock, he wound it up and snapped the lid shut. He rubbed, and the micro-tornado of magic dust appeared. Whoosh! A wet chill swept over Hoops's body as he appeared in the new world, underwater. The world around him was light, hazy blue, and he was floating. He couldn't breathe, and his eyes stung from the salt in the water. He was at the bottom of an ocean. He should have held his breath when he rubbed the pocket watch. Looking up, he couldn't quite make out how far up the surface was. Just then, the timepiece slipped out of his hand and fell to the ocean floor. His lungs hurt, and he had to decide if he swam up to the surface, there would be no way to hold his breath long enough to go back down to the ocean floor and find the timepiece. If he swam down after the timepiece, he would only have one chance to grab it, or he would drown. With his lungs aching, he no longer felt invincible. His only chance to survive was to use the timepiece. He swam down. Though his eyes burned from the salt water, he kept them open. He swam very quickly to the murky bottom of the sea. Long stalks of slimy seaweed grew out of it. He was so scared. He couldn't see the timepiece as he dug through the plants and sand. The more he dug, the more the sand kept clouding his vision. He panicked, and the more he panicked, the cloudier the ocean floor became. He tried to calm himself, but it was too hard. He was about to pass out, and his lungs felt like they were on fire. Just then his hand brushed across the smooth metal of the pocket watch, which he quickly grabbed and set to 6:30. As he rubbed, he felt like it might still be too late. Any moment he would pass out, open his mouth and breathe in the water, killing him instantly. Just one more second. Whoosh! Hoops opened his mouth, expecting his lungs to fill with ocean water and drown. Instead, the air of his bedroom rushed into him, and he spent the next minute breathing heavily. A minute later, Hoops fell asleep, exhausted from almost dying. He slept hard, and he had strange dreams about underwater burglars and shadow toxigators. He finally awoke at noon and glanced at his alarm clock. He wondered if he had just stayed in bed all morning and only dreamed of the underwater world. But his clothes and body were soaking wet, and the covers on his bed were wet too, and smelled salty and fishy. He changed his clothes and pulled long stalks of stinky seaweed out of his pockets. Not thinking, he threw them in the kitchen trash can, causing the whole apartment to stink like a dirty beach. Hoop was surprised that he had appeared underwater. That was unexpected and certainly noteworthy. 4 o'clock world. The Deep. Rule 1. An entire world under the ocean surface. Without the proper gear, it's impossible to explore. Note, next time, leave from the bathtub. He was glad that he had forgotten to take King Tut with him this time. The poor little mouse wouldn't have made it back. His Majesty would have been fish food for sure. At the same time, he was irritated that he didn't get to explore that watery new world. He resolved to go back, but next time he'd be ready.